I facilitate.
Fair enough.
That's my job.
There you
I
go.
mean, you know this. You know better than anyone I think that I've interviewed,
Yeah,
honestly, because
yeah.
you have been
I'm
here.
usually on your side,
Exactly.
so it's always interesting being on the other side, and I'm just like, ah, I guess I'm
I,
going to talk about me for once.
you are going to talk about you. That's my
Eh,
goal. I don't. People ask me questions sometimes. They're like, hey, "What are you?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm not. We're not here to talk about me. Uh, we're here to talk about acetamine,
Yeah,
correct?
yep.
Acetamine. Okay. They do say it in the book, but I want to be very clear about how to say it. I mean, it is, I think you do, it is on purpose close to like, it's like adjacent to, as
Acetaminophen.
acetaminophen, like
That's
it.
actually, well, I mean, like I know the interview's starting soon, so I can discuss this more.
No, I mean, we're recording. You can go.
Oh my goodness, we've been recording the whole time. All right. Well, so how I got the title for the title for the book slash the name of the drug. So when I map out my characters, like I have um, their names, their personality traits, their overall like role in the book. Their appearance, yada yada. So I had already had these characters planned, but I didn't have the title. And I knew, Alfredo is his real name, but Ace, um the Walter White-esque,
Right.
drug chemist genius in the story, and he comes up with this brilliant new drug, and he named it after himself, Acetamine. And yep, I just researched different drugs like methamphetamine, and was like, I just kind of want a similar like druggy
Right.
name. So
Can you give our listeners a quick little elevator pitch?
so think Breaking Bad based in Florida, and it's way crazier, bloodier, like essentially druggy Florida man horror.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's good enough. I think it's a pretty good, like short encapsulation of it.
it
Uh,
is.
yeah. I think you are my first extreme horror author on the podcast as well.
Awesome.
And we'll probably dabble with all the terribleness in the book.
Perfect.
No, I mean not really. I mean we'll talk around it. I'm sure. We'll try and avoid
Mhm.
most spoilers, but uh, you describe in your afterward about this was not intentional. Like you weren't going after kind of sociopolitical Florida stuff at first, right?
Correct. So how I got the idea for Ace to mean, unfortunately, a friend of mine passed away. She was a heroin user and she overdosed. And I had the idea for, and then also around that time, I just so happened to be, it was during the pandemic. I think late 2020, early 21 ish. So I was binge watching Breaking Bad and Ozark. So I had this like drug, type of thing going on. And then, yeah, as I said, my friend passed away at the beginning of 21. And um, I also had been wanting to write like Florida horror, Florida splatter. Because I had been, really into authors like Lucas Milliron, for example, who, he's a Florida based author who covers like a lot of the insanity in Florida. Actually, his book, Cocksucker, takes it's Ace means nothing. Ace means like a children's book compared to Cocksucker. So yeah, and I wanted to write my own because I'm a Florida-based splatterpunk author, and um, but as I'm sure during the pandemic, that's when I like my home state literally changed before my eyes, and there are all these new buildings popping up, and St. Petersburg, where that's more the area where I grew up. I grew up in a suburb of Clearwater, and even Clearwater changed a lot too. But St. Pete was already gentrified, and then Tampa, where I live now, started getting gentrified. So there was a lot of change going on, and I was pissed off. Oh, and then the cost of living started to rise, and um, it had already been starting to rise, but really during the pandemic, it just exploded, and I was pissed. I was pissed, like a lot of Floridians. Not necessarily on the people or towards the people who moved here, but more so towards the larger figures, the corporations,
Developers.
um, the property developers who paved this way for all of this to happen. And I know that Florida is not the only, not even state. Like other countries have been struggling with this too, this like mass like gentrification. But I think what makes Florida unique is how it happened in such a short amount of time, so suddenly, and it was a lot to take in. So I took all of that out in my new book, Histamine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like literally within our lifetimes, it's drastically changed. I think anyone
Absolutely.
who's grown up, anyone who's around our age, who has grown up in Florida, has seen it become. And you talk about it in your afterword, and it rises, comes up in the book multiple times, where orange groves,
Yeah.
mom and pop roadside stands, and like, yeah, of course Disney was there, but it was Disney and it was kind of self-contained. And now everywhere you go, it feels like an Apple store. It feels so like polished
Mhm.
and broad and boring and like safe. It's weird, and it's, I don't know. It's really interesting. I'm having you right on after Douglas Ford, for those listening, and his book has similar stuff going on in it too, about history of Florida and Florida changing and becoming this different place. The, that's mostly the only things your two books share with each other, though. A lot
Hey,
less.
Doug is great, so I'm
No,
sure his new
I
book's fantastic.
no, his book's great.
Mhm.
You should absolutely. I was Bloody Bucket. I mean, we talked about it last week, but you would like Bloody Bucket.
Cool.
Um, and that I think, jumping to, I guess, the time jumps in the book,
Mhm.
was that always how you had it? Like, was that always the way it was in your mind? Like, oh, we're gonna be jumping back and forward in time, and seeing the birth of the drug, and then kind of the after effects. There's like a roughly a year in between. Is that always how it looked? Was that added or changed at any time?
So that I should mention I'm an outliner. There's for those listening who aren't writers, there's different writers. There's outliners and there's others who just wing it. So I'm an outliner. And then when I was outlining, because I knew that Ace, like oh, actually I should backtrack a little bit more. So I really wanted to focus on Black Lives Matter and some of the more diverse, like the diversity in Florida specifically, because it's also, I realized in my last books I never really wrote about people of color and the BIPOC community, and we especially have so much cultural diversity here in Florida that I don't think a lot of people really talk about. And especially this was during Black Lives Matter, and I watched in horror of George Floyd's murder and all the other cases of police brutality, and was just sickened by, like, people talking about blue lives. And it's like, you know, and even though, yes, I have loved ones who do work in law enforcement, but it's like you're focusing on that and not the murder of innocent people because of the color of their skin. Like, I was just disgusted. So that's why immediately, I planned it that, and this isn't a spoiler, by the way, this happens in technically the second chapter, but you find out Ace had been arrested for manufacturing acetamine. And there was this big, happens throughout the book, like, this big like other section of the story that happens in prison. So that's not a spoiler, guys, by the way. And I didn't necessarily want that to be like a plot twist when I was planning this because of, unfortunately, this is, like, especially digging into the racism of our prisons, and um of like especially drug culture and everything, and the war on drugs, and how that was essentially just an excuse to target people of color, and throw them in prison. So I didn't want that to be like a big spoiler. So, but Ace wouldn't have been arrested immediately because law enforcement had to get word, and the DEA had to get word of Acetamine as a drug, because oftentimes these new drugs kind of go under the radar. They're in the party cultures and the subcultures. And then over time, as more people know about it, well, then law enforcement gets word of it. So, and they crack down on it. So, um, having Ace like a year, like, so for the first chapter, you learn what Acetamine is. Second chapter is a year later, and Ace is arrested. And to me, that just made the most logical sense, to highlight, some of the more sociopolitical issues, again, such as like, racism in our prison system and the war on drugs, while also still being true to the story. And then through that, I also had the idea to make all of these timelines happen within the hottest months of the year in Florida. Because, one of the main reasons why, especially northern transplants, move down here is because of the weather. And I don't think what a lot of people realize is like, there, the heat is intense, the humidity is intense. I go crazy. I don't know about you, Robbie, but I go crazy during the summer months.
I I think it's I'm not I don't I'm not too bad, honestly, with the heat. I think I just make peace that I am going to be a sweaty mess. I think it's like that's a
I'm glad
large part
your
of it.
better than mine in that
I
way.
mean, I think it's largely it's just like, well, make sure you drink a lot of water and hydrate, and you're gonna be kind of gross. Like you're gonna be a gross mess if you're outside for any length of time in the summertime in Florida. But there's absolutely like a timer,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're a native, you kind of realize that as you're like, oh, I can't be outside for too long. We
Right.
need to we need to take a break, go inside, cool back down, and then maybe you can go back out, or maybe no. We had our 2 hours in the summertime in the heat at a concert, at a festival, going to a park, whatever it may be, and then you're like, no, we're done for the day, because you will. I don't know. I remember growing up, my dad mowing the lawn on a Saturday in the middle of the summertime, and him laying on the floor afterwards, because he's a crazy man and worked until he was on the verge of shock. Which, but I don't think transplants don't necessarily aren't the humidity is really the thing, because it gets hot a lot of places, but it doesn't get as humid
Mm-hmm.
in a lot, and the heat at the same time. And I think and it is a pressure cooker, right? And that, like, it comes through in the book. There is like that, it's that feeling where you're like, it really does stop you from thinking. You can't think clearly because you're so hot.
Absolutely. And it's just, like, I think that's also a big reason for all the, crazy Florida man stories. It's, obviously drugs have a big part to do with it. That's what, is mentioned in the book, but also it's just that rage. It's that, like, you just get so crazy from that intense heat. And, and for some people, it can just set them off. It can, like, I've definitely been a massive bitch when it's been like a hot summer day and someone is
You get
just,
grumpy. You
yeah,
get real grumpy.
exactly. Yeah, someone's saying the wrong thing to me and I just fucking blow up. That's happened to me. I can't even count how many times. And then there's also the health effects of the heat. Like, my dermatologist had to tell me, because even after I wear sunscreen, and I wear like at least SPF 50, sometimes SPF 70, and I still get sunburns even after like applying my sunscreen. Or if I forget to apply it to somewhere. I remember there was one time I got sunburned, like, around here. Oh my
Yeah,
nose,
it's
I never
always like a little
been there.
spot or yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
really
or and,
annoying.
like, under my nostrils. I'm like, "Why the fuck they get sunburned there?" But, yeah, so my dermatologist told me I'm sensitive to UV rays. I'm like, "Oh, great, what a perfect state to live in." And then, now I'm starting to get, like, eczema breakouts. I've had heat stroke a couple times, and there are definitely, negative consequences to living in a state with intense heat, and even with, like, some of the Florida horror splatter, with the exception of The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve because she really did create that atmosphere of like swampy Florida, out
Yeah,
in, the deep south of North Florida. Because more north you get, the more south you get, um,
yep.
unfortunately. And but other than the reformatory, I don't think many authors have like focused on just like the heat aspect and kind of created made that a theme in the story.
Yeah, I mean, it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
The the, the wet bulb temperature, as they say. Um, this is like there's perspectives, three perspective characters, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it feels like to me that Dax, who is I would classify him as the antagonist,
Yes.
is still the main character because we
Yep.
see him the most.
Mhm.
Is was that just to he's the best perspective for this utter insanity, like for this voyage of like craziness, was just follow the technically the antagonist for 60% of the book, maybe 70, somewhere in there, feels like.
I'd say yes, Dax is absolutely the antagonist. But I also made him like one of the more dominant characters because he's the one where some of these themes come out. Um, like for example, we're talking about like the rage and the anger and the lashing out and the violence. Like Dax is the one to do all of that. And I should have mentioned to the readers, out of all three of the characters, he's the white one. And he's the one committing all this bullshit. And doing all this crazy, violent insanity. And but also, I wanted to highlight with Dax something that I also don't feel like a lot of horror authors convey with their antagonists, with their villains. And that's, a villain isn't necessarily like a masked murderer, like not necessarily somebody who is just inherently evil to his or her core. Dax has other qualities, like he's very into environmentalism, he's vegan, he's passionate about animal rights. Um Even though, and I didn't want to, I did mention this on purpose, he does fetishize women of color, but he's also very passionate about racial equality. And I know I had to go back and forth with my editor about this, when she was doing her thing with the book, because it's something I had to explain. It's like I wanted specifically to create a very complex antagonist where he does have these very, very positive qualities about him, but at the same time, he is evil. He is misogynist. He doesn't see his daughter. His actually, that's a
I was gonna
that's
say
a spoiler.
there is a there. I would say there. I know what you're talking about, but yeah,
Yeah,
that is a spoiler.
I'm not gonna say that part,
Yeah,
but yes, he doesn't see his daughter. He doesn't pay child support. He's a deadbeat dad, in other words. He dated Charity. Charity is Dax's ex girlfriend, mother of his child, and she's also one of the point of views. And you find out Dax dated Charity when she was barely legal, and he was in his mid 30s, and how he groomed her and manipulated her. And so other than the crazy violent scenes, which I'm sure we'll get to in this interview soon, I wanted to show that part of him as well as him being, misogynist, racist in that way, to fetishize women of color, to, he abuses women and, is a deadbeat dad. But, again, he's also vegan and really into environmentalism. So it's like,
I mean, I always it's that there's hypocrisy in that, and it's also like there's I don't know that feels like it's also pointing at the fact that are many men like him who think that I don't know having a good quality here and a good quality there therefore makes them they can do whatever they want. They can be whatever they want. It's fine. Yeah, of course I believe in I'm a vegan. I'm against racism. Except I also fetishize, certain races. It feels like, you know, natural hypocrisy that I don't is also I think prevalent in, you know, certain white men, certain white racists who are like, no, how could they be racist? They're married to an Asian woman or something, which you see all the time. And you're like, oh no, they, there's this cognitive dissonance in there where
yeah.
they're like, oh no, I'm not a racist. I'm married. How could I be racist? But I'm actually super racist.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to convey, is that sometimes these bad people are not as, again, it's not like they're Michael Myers wearing a mask and holding a machete. It's like, it's more complicated to identify a bad person in real
Right.
life. And you said this as an example with like how a lot of men, they, or it's, um like you gave a great example of like, oh, how can it be racist when I'm dating, a woman of this race or whatever. And then there's also like, oh, how can I be misogynist? I have no problems with a woman president. Or but then he is totally into red pill bullshit.
Right.
So yeah, it is a very, very, it's more complex. And I unfortunately feel like, I know I've dealt with it in my life. I'm sure other women have dealt with it too. It's like, oh my god, this great guy who agrees with me that women should have abortion rights, reproductive rights, but then he just showed me this fucking Jordan Peterson video.
Oh boy, I don't. We could easily spend a lot. I'm not going to talk about. I could talk about Jordan Peterson a lot. I'm not going to. Um, we have more important things to talk about, like your book and your writing. Um, so I do want to touch on, and you've kind of hinted at this to me, or talked around it. I think when we've
Mhm.
uh, hung out at meetings or whatever over drinks, and I'm very desensitized to kind of to violence and to graphic sexual assault or anything like it's bad. It does go I go but I don't like it doesn't make me throw the book down. Like I know people who if they tried to read this they immediately would just nope out. They couldn't take it.
And you know what? That's fine.
No, exactly. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's more about do you you've talked about like having to write really graphic and awful things in your books and how it affects your mental health. Do you have to back away from that after writing a project like this? Do you have to go like detox a little bit?
I didn't for this book.
Okay.
And I think the reason why is, even though there were some pretty dark scenes, there were also a lot of really fun scenes
It
too.
is I do want to point out I did laugh at this, especially the definitely not Scientology stuff. It made me laugh. I did like that was very funny.
I had to include that. I had
Yeah.
the serpent
It's
bites.
a part of Florida. It is a part of Florida.
All the kooky, crazy Florida shit. I just had to include in this book, including the
Yeah.
serpent
But
bites.
is that the humor helps like balance it out a little
Oh,
bit?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Even in like Dissecting House, my first book, because I think one of the most interesting pieces of feedback I got from an early reader, because he's one of my friends, so he called me and he's like, "Man, Mina is hilarious." I'm like, I think I made her funny on purpose because even like we are just talking about the misogyny and stuff, that is exactly what I wanted to highlight in my Mina Bassi series. But I'm like, she's a fucking psycho bitch. Like, I didn't necessarily like her at all. I empathized with her, but I didn't like her. But making her funny and snarky and sarcastic, just, it at least was like, okay, I'm kind of having some fun writing about her. But yeah, I definitely, especially, and this book was, it was easy to have some of the more like humor and just like bonkers scenes. So this one was one of the more like fun books, even though again there were some very, very dark scenes that I did not enjoy writing. But again, it was like the next chapter would be them going to Disney and like getting and like involved in all this bullshit there.
I again, it's as a Florida native, there's lots of that stuff pops a lot, and I'm like, oh, that's very funny. I like that a lot. We're done with the first segment, Stephanie.
Ooh, look at that.
But Acetamine is out now.
No, February 5th.
No. We're in the future, Stephanie. We're in the future.
Okay, we're in the future.
The future. It came out, I believe, 4 days ago, maybe 5 days ago.
Okay, and in the future, 4 days ago.
Yes, we're in the future, and the book is out now.
Yes.
Instant bestseller, actually.
Woo! Go.
If you say it enough times, it will come true.
Okay.
That's how you do it. You have to manifest things like that.
Best instant bestseller.
Yeah, it's a bestseller. I don't know. Bestseller is such a nebulous term. You can use that to describe books that, it's not, you don't have to say it's a New York Times bestseller. It could be, if it gets a number 1 on Amazon in any category, technically it's a bestseller.
Technically, it could be the bestseller at a bookstore.
Exactly. It's a bestseller. Exactly.
There you go. It's already a bestseller.
It's already a bestseller. We can move on to the second act, which is broader bookish questions.
Okay.
And the first question, which will certainly connect to Acetamine, but to all your work in particular, because it's a question from Douglas Ford, from Mr. Douglas Ford. And I'm going to ask you for a question for my next guest at the end of the segment.
All righty.
And Doug's question, and he asked a version of this question, and then I told him it would be you, and he's like, okay, I have a better version. I think this is a good question. And it applies to this book, and I think it applies to most of your writing. When is it necessary to be as gross as possible? When do you know, oh, I need to put the pedal down? This has to be really, really impactful and be kind of gross and disgusting.
I mean, how I look at it, if I were writing violence in any scene, in any type of violent act, it's, I'm not satisfied with like, oh, he stabbed him. The end. Like, no, we're gonna, because I took the creative writing courses. I did the English major, and you're, describing things with the 5 senses, and you're, going into the medical terminology of, large intestine disembowelment and, excrement post-mortem, and and then you need to describe the sights and the sounds and the smells and the tastes, and it's, so again, if I'm running a violence scene, I'm going all out.
If it's going to be violent, it should be violent.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And otherwise, if I'm not writing, because one of my future books is going to be grief horror, so that's not going to be a gross book at all, because there's not going to be any violence. It's just going to be emotionally devastating. But thus far, all of my books are absolutely disgusting.
Well, I am looking forward to whatever this unnamed grief horror book is. I am looking forward to it as well. So let's see. This is a question I ask everybody. Mm-hmm. Who is an author more people should be reading? And you can give me more than one if you'd like.
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to have to pinpoint my friends, starting with you, Robbie.
That's very kind. You don't need to do that, but I appreciate that.
Well, well, to everybody here watching this podcast, I just finished reading Words of Christ in Red, and I freaking loved it. I think I finished it in like a week and a half, but it would have been like only a few days if I didn't have a job. Because there were so many times I'm like, I want to read the chapter, but I have to log in. So yeah, like it was. I like you should just have a podcast episode talking about that book. It's so good.
I might in the
Do
future.
it,
I don't
do
know. We're
it,
gonna say, yeah.
do it, because like I can tell reading that book that there is so much symbolism. Like that was a very very personal story to you. So definitely want to highlight Robbie. Doug Ford is, I mean, not only is he such a great author. Like he's freaking funny and he has his own voice too,
Yeah.
which is something um it's one of those things. I don't necessarily, I mean, you tell me if you think this is incorrect. I don't necessarily think I have like a signature voice. It, really varies between all of my work, but whenever I read a Douglas Ford book, even if his name was not on the cover, it was just some anonymous dude, was the name on the cover, then I would be like, oh, that Doug wrote that book. Like
Doug
any
definitely has a very strong voice. I
he
mean, it's I don't know. I think you have a voice. I think like all of us, we are finding constantly, like as you make more work, like personally, it's the same. Like I feel like you are constantly finding that perspective, that voice. And like but you can quickly, like, I don't know, Doug definitely has that where you can read his thing and you're like, you feel it. I don't
um,
know. Josh is the same way.
yeah,
I hear his voice in my head when I read his stories. I
yeah,
can hear him telling me that, but it's like, it's not a necessarily, sometimes it's subtle too. And like, sometimes you can't pick up
that's a good
on,
point.
yeah. And like, I don't know, I think that blend of like this book. I mean, I feel like there is maybe like, and it's like sometimes because I don't know. I think about this a lot. Sometimes the way publishing works, and it will be you publish. When did you write? This was a pandemic book, right? So you wrote this like shortly
21,
thereafter. Yeah,
yeah, 21-ish. I finished it in 22, the
right.
end
And
of
that's like
22.
years ago now.
Oh
So
my
this is exactly. It's 4 years ago.
Jesus.
I know. I know. Someone was like, you should. I was asking for book recs to try and query agents, but I needed a recent book. And they're like, here's a book. I'm like, that book is 6 years old. It came out in 2020. And they're
Oh,
like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I know.
you can
6 years.
go ahead.
2020 was 6 years ago. Um, but I mean, that's the thing. We're releasing books we wrote years
Yeah.
behind us. They're like in our wake already. The thing I'm writing right now is already a different me
Yeah.
than the version that wrote that thing that I'm publishing. I'm publishing it now and I still love it, but it's not really me anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
I'm sorry, I interrupted my
So
own question to opine about voices. So Doug, yeah, everyone, the last episode was Doug, but yeah, people should go read Doug. Go read the bloody bucket. It's out now.
And there are other splatter authors that I don't feel are promoted enough. One being my good friend Lucas Mangum. He is, I'm like, if we're talking about, versatile authors who, you can read one book from his and then the next and they sound like two completely different people. Like Lucas is awesome. Saint Sadist, I feel like that's the one where I read that book and I was just blown away. It's so beautifully written, but it's so morbid. And Lucas just, he has so many other good ones. But yeah, Lucas Mangum, not Lucas Magnum, Lucas Mangum.
Mangum,
Yes,
right?
is his name. And another one is Garrett Cook. I've read um, uh, Charcoal and his newest one. And now I don't, Kennel. It was like right on the tip of my tongue. He is so freaking good. Both of those stories are, because I think also with splatter is, you get a lot of the same type of concepts, same type of stories. It's really difficult to be unique, but Garrett Cook is a very, very unique author. He has these like crazy inventive stories that are so fucked up but so well written, and it's like he just throws you into this weird depraved world with, or at least those two books of his that I've read. So he is phenomenal, and again, he doesn't get the exposure and the attention he deserves. And then another one, I'm not on. It's funny because we're talking about like, like how there's a lot of humor in my books, but I'm honestly not a fan of horror comedy at all. But one author, and I can't believe it's taken me so long to read her book. I read Reception by Kenzie Jennings, and it's like one of those old Peter Jackson films, like Dead Alive. It's just so gross, but fun. And I'm the type of person, I am very good at predicting endings, but I will say Reception, that she threw me off guard. It's like I was so close to predicting that ending, and then she just took it in like a 180. So, yeah, read Kenzie Jennings. And even though she's one of, I feel like, not necessarily splatter, she has like very varied, and she's very varied in the horror genre, but she's a good friend of mine, so I feel the need to mention her, and that's Judith Sonnet. Like everything that she puts out is awesome, and she's just such an awesome person.
All right. I'll try and put links to all that stuff in
Yeah.
the show notes. If I can, sometimes I forget a name or something, but I do my best. Let's see. What was your gateway horror media?
Ooh, so books and movies. So with books, it was I'd say, oh, books first, absolutely. Goosebumps, Scary Stories Tell in the Dark. Like, me being a kid and reading those books, that was definitely the introduction. But the first horror movie I ever really saw was House of a Thousand Corpses. I was 10 years old because my brother and I were big like fans of Rob Zombie's music.
Right.
So when we were like, oh, he has a movie out. So we find it online. And again, me being 10, my brother being 12, he never watched another horror movie in his life. I didn't stop.
I was gonna say
I
it's such a stark difference.
Yeah, no, my brother still likes Hot Wheels and Pokemon and Power Rangers, and he's older than me. And I'm like, look at this book by Lucas Mega. But my brother's looking at the cover like,
Ugh,
you sure?
gross.
Yeah,
Weirdo.
like freaking weird, total. I mean, my brother and I have very many similarities, but as far as like, he's a total, nerd, a child stuck in a 30-year-old's body. And I'm just like trying to find the newest thing in the horror that will just disturb me because I'm also desensitized like you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I go through cycles where I'm like, where I expose myself to some horrible extreme thing, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's go into this other place. Let's go to very soft and gentle, or more obscure, like more abstract horror things, like
Yeah. Or David Lynch, more surreal.
yeah, more surreal stuff like that. Yeah. Let's see. What is a practice that helps keep your writing momentum going?
um That is a good question. I mean, I think at this point it's just my brain. It doesn't shut up. If I have a story idea, it will just keep circulating and circulating and circulating and circulating until like put it on the paper. So, that right there is a good way to encourage my writing. But it's also the fact that I edit AI content for a living. So after trudging through all of the slop, I'm just ready to just, and I should mention to these to everybody here, I don't use any AI in my fiction writing at all, none.
Right.
Not even, I'm sorry.
No, I was like, yes, I. It's there's more and more it feels like people are just throwing out accusations about to writers like, oh, I didn't like it, so it must be AI. And I'm like,
Uh,
I've seen a lot, like multiple people I follow the past past couple weeks, they've gotten like they get bad reviews where it's like, oh, 1 star, it feels like AI slop. I'm like, you can't just just blandly call someone that it.
I And there's also those who they see an M dash, they're like AI, and then here is the professional AI editor. I was originally a professional writer, but now that's AI editor. My role changed. I'm here to tell you that M dashes don't necessarily mean AI, but what a lot of LLMs do is they use the M dash to emphasize, not necessarily as an alternative to a comma or to introduce like a new concept, but you don't necessarily want to start a new sentence.
Yeah.
The correct way to use the M dash, but AI mainly uses an M dash for emphasis, and that's not always exactly necessary or even correct. So, if you just see the M dash, that doesn't mean AI. Like there are many
I
other.
use, I use so many M dashes in
I love the
everything.
M dash.
I
I
love,
am an M dash fan.
yeah, exactly. M dashes are great.
I
They're
love them.
fantastic.
Yes. I know, and then like it sucks. Like when I'm, at work, I'm like, I should take out this M dash, but I love that M dash. But yeah, no, there are many, many more ways to identify if a content is AI generated or not. So the M
Yeah.
dash is absolutely not the one to blame.
Um, do you listen to music while you write?
Yep.
Okay.
I mainly like anything that's instrumental is the best. Or if there is vocals, it has to be death metal or like tech death or something. Because if there's singing and lyrics, then I'm just gonna pay attention to that. But if it's like I listen to a lot of different types of instrumental music. Like I love goth music and like horror film scores. I actually listen to one of my ex-boyfriends would make fun of me because I listen to the Friday the 13th, like the first three soundtracks all the time. Just they're great soundtracks. They're great soundtracks. So I listen to those a lot. In like, goth music or synthwave. Horror scores in general. I listen to a lot of classical, jazz. My grandma was a big fan of jazz music, so like Dave Brubeck and like all of those classics. I listen to a lot. I don't know what genre. I call it dorky guitar music, like stuff like Vinnie Moore. And it's funny because I even talk to my friends who are actual professional guitar players. They're like, I don't even listen to that, and I'm like, I love Jason Becker. He's great.
Dorky,
I don't understand it, but it sounds cool. So I'm good.
dorky guitar music.
It's because it's just like a shredder who can play every note and
Like Steve Vai or something like
oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Steve Vai, Ingve,
Yeah,
like some
Yngwie,
more
yeah.
like popular
Do
better.
you have you this is not a hard book question at all, but Polyphia, do you like Polyphia?
I do like Polyphia.
Okay.
Yeah, a
There,
lot of
I would also describe Polyphia as dorky guitar music. I
they're
like Polyphia, but they are
music.
it's definitely just
It's so dorky.
because what's his face is handsome and looks like a little elf boy that it they
That's a good way to describe I don't know that guy's name, but I know
Tim
that's what you're
Henson.
talking about.
Tim Henson is his name. And
Oh,
he's an incredible, one of the most
oh, yeah.
incredible guitar players I've ever seen. But he looks like a little elfin prince. Like that's what he looks like.
I
And I
love
think
I
and
can
he's
picture
very
him.
handsome, very pretty. But I think that it slides him past the fact that his music is still
He's amazing.
dorky guitar.
Yeah,
It's dorky
yeah,
guitar music.
it's super dorky, but
Yeah, but I
I love
like it. But that's what it is.
yeah, so but like it's I mean I'd also say like Conquering Dystopia, that super group project of Jeff Loomis and um Keith Merrow and Alex Rudinger, and also Jeff Loomis and Keith Merrow have their own dorky guitar, and they're really good. So
Yeah, I mean all of these people are like
yes.
the most incredible musicians. They can do anything.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely, and
but
even
I mean,
Skolnick has a jazz band, Alex Skolnick Trio. It's so freaking good.
I should listen to that. I wonder what's
Really good.
yeah. I
It's
don't
yeah,
listen to
I
I
was
don't
just
listen to a lot of jazz, but I'd give it a
mhm.
shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not metal at all. Not like
Right.
metal. It's
Well, I
jazz.
contain multitudes, just like you, Stephanie.
Yes.
I listen to everything.
Cool.
Not everything, but I listen to lots of genres. I just because I don't know. I feel like there's two types of metalheads. There's people who like it's the only thing they listen to,
Mhm.
or metalheads who listen to literally every genre on earth. They like
We're
everything.
not elitist. I think that's
No.
the better word because I
Yeah.
did. There was like a string of Instagram reels, and it was something like me showing my playlist to the girl who listens to every type of music, and it was like the most, um, like, I'll have to find that reel and send it to you. It is. I was laughing my ass off. Like I think one song was a guy talking about how much he loves McDonald's, but with like some beat in the background.
McDonald's is pretty good. I like McDonald's.
I don't.
No, I mean I like it. I guess I don't like it anymore. I like McDonald's breakfast. I think that's the no. See, you made a face. All right, it's fine. Let me see. I'll do. What time is it? How much time we got? I'll do one more question. Um, so that's a question I like a lot. What's the best piece of advice you followed?
Oh my goodness. So now I have to think back to all of the pieces of advice I have followed and I haven't followed. Because there's a lot of the other that's mainly the advice that was given to me and I just ignored because I'm too scared. Um, but the best piece of advice that I followed, probably to write. Oh no, I'm here. No 0 days. It technically was a Reddit post. No,
Okay.
it's not a piece of advice that somebody told me, but a Reddit post I found. And, because I would try to do the writing every day, and I do try to do that, but there are some days where it's like I can just write and that's it. But even stuff like research, stuff like outlining or planning, to me, that's still writing. And I consider that a no zero day. A no zero, like a 0 day is when I don't do any writing whatsoever, or I don't do any work on my book. But even, as I said, just like researching something, for my book, like that to me counts as writing. So no 0 days.
That's good.
That's probably the best
I
advice. Yeah.
like no 0 days.
Yeah.
I don't. My brain won't let me do 0 days. My brain is.
Same.
I have the bad thing inside that says do it or you're a bad person,
Yeah.
and then so I go do it because I don't want to be a bad person. That's what
Yeah.
bad people do, even though that's
Yeah.
not true. You're allowed to take breaks. What's your question for our next guest?
Oof. Do I get to know who the next guest is?
I can tell you if you'd like. If you want to know, I can tell you.
Um. Sure. Tell me.
It is Will Sterling. We're going to be
Hmm.
talking about his Beanie Baby, uh, like YA book, this evil Beanie Baby book, basically. I haven't read it yet. That's like the next thing I'm going to read, so I'm very excited for it.
Oh my god, that is very, very intriguing. Because right there alone, I just have so many questions. But
It
I
doesn't have to be specific to the book or whatever. It can just be a broad question too. It's
all right. So I guess my question is, it's like I also don't want it to be like a general vague question, but I guess um how do you make a book? Actually, since he's a YA author, it's like how do
he
you
does lots of he does this book is
okay.
YA. He does lots of different stuff.
Okay. Yeah, because again, it's like I got so many questions I could ask. What is um what is something you would never write about? How about that?
Okay, that's a good question. I like that a lot. Just quiet while I write this down.
It's okay.
Otherwise, I have to come back, and I hate doing it.
Understandable.
Or I forget to the last second. I'm like, oh wait, I need to figure out what was the question. Um, all right, I will ask Will that. It's a good question. We can move on to our final segment.
All righty, let's do it.
It's time for blood.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, it's time for struggle. It's time
Okay.
for trouble. It's time for things, anything you, so either it could be something with a work in progress, nuts and bolts. Like, I don't know how to get, I don't know how to make this plot work. Or it could be ethos, philosophical, it could be business. Why isn't my book selling and I hate marketing? It could be something like that. What comes up? What do you, is it? It could be a work in progress thing. It could be, I don't want to sell this book. It's too much work to make a reel, Instagram reel or TikTok.
I mean, there are two. So yeah,
Okay.
you did mention the business side because I work in digital marketing for a living, and sometimes I feel like I do so much marketing for other people, I don't feel like marketing my own thing. But again, I have all the expertise and the knowledge and yada yada that I can. But again, it's time and also the balance of marketing a book versus working on a new project. So that's been my struggle. But the other struggle that's with a book and I just wrote the end on the first draft. Uh,
Yay.
Book I keep in our meetings, I keep mentioning that's screwing up my mental health, but I finally finished that
Okay,
one.
that's the one. That's what I was
Mhm.
asking about. Is this one? Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, like, Acetamine was a lot of fun to write. That one was, that did not affect my mental health
Is
at
this
this
the
point.
grief one? The grief horror one? Oh,
No,
okay. This is a
no,
new one.
this is
Got
under
it.
completely this is my more political.
Oh no, yeah. I've written a political book, and you're did the same thing to me.
Oh, yeah, so that one I'm debating on how to approach publishing that one. I'm honestly thinking about publishing that under a pseudonym, and before before I wrote a book, I was originally thinking about writing under a pseudonym because um with the depravity of my books, like at first I'm like, well, I'm not putting my name on that, but then I had to realize, it's not like I'm Stephen King as Richard Bachman, like how am I going to promote this? How am I going to attend like conventions and conferences if Jane Doe is not my real name, but people are seeing my face, so like,
Right.
and like what
You have to
uh,
have a persona.
essentially. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm just publishing it under my name. But with this one, I'm like, I think I might want to just go undercover and then get all new social media and just put this under a pseudonym because it is like I'm taking a break from writing splatter novels after this one was too much for me, for even me. So
I mean, I wrote a political book. It's called Truth. I wrote it during the first Trump administration. And I joke with people when they pick it up at a con or something. I go, that book gave me the flu because it like it didn't literally make me sick, but it made me like it felt like a cast thing. Like I was cursed after I wrote it because if
yeah,
like it was so heavy, like it's really dark. It's not violent really for the most part, but it is very grim and very dark, and it's like impossible not to be if you're writing about politics.
it's
It's gonna be a dark and heavy.
even if I mean this one is like beyond like violence is an understatement. It's depraved is an understatement. I don't even want to think of a word for what for to describe this book. But
Is it? Are you just concerned like the backlash or something like that?
the backlash, yes, but also I feel gross after writing that book. Like even with dissecting House and well, House of Sunshine, I felt gross, but there was also a because that was a very cathartic book, so that also served as a release for me to kind of work out some of my past traumas. But with this book, ugh, ugh, I felt so gross. There were times when I wouldn't touch that book for months, and then I would work on, like, that grief horror book or, like, some short stories or something because 'cause I'm like, "I don't even wanna look at the Word file right now." Blech. So, yeah, but, yeah, that's one of those, like, I'm still in the editing like, I literally just finished that book, and now I'm already editing it because I wanna start putting it out to publishers, but yeah, so that's the one that I'm like, that might be I might have to do the pseudonym thing for that
Can you tease what it's about,
one.
or you want to keep it secret?
I'll just say one. I'll just have you all think about one book that's already published. The
Okay.
120 Days of Sodom.
Oh, okay. God Almighty. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go. That's enough said.
Okay. All right.
Now you know
Under-
why I feel all icky.
okay, got it. So, but you do you think you will be like? Do you think? I'm not asking you to predict the future or you beholden to anything like this, but do you think it's going to be like, oh well, I'll take a break from writing splatter for now, or do you think it really would? Do you think there's ever a point where you're like, I can't do it anymore? I've gone too far, and now I'm just gonna explore new stuff, go into new different subgenres.
I mean, at first that was the plan, but you can't take me away from splatter forever. I'm already I can't like I'm not going to mention anything, but I was invited to write for an anthology, for a splatter anthology. So, and that one, I was really excited to get that offer because there had been a story I've been thinking about for years that fit that theme. So I'm like, yay, I get to write an excuse to write this story I've had in mind for a long time. So I told myself for stuff like that, for open submission calls, specifically short stories. Like I will absolutely continue writing splatter because I feel like splatter it's more fun when it's short and condensed. But I think my problem for these last few books, I've been writing full on splatter novels. And I think that's when it starts to affect my mental health because it's just, gross scene after gross scene after gross scene constantly. And I'm not getting a break. Or if I do, it's because I'm forcing myself to focus on another project for the interim. But there are other genres I want to explore. Like I mentioned, grief horror. There's a surrealist book. I think that's going to be like, years down the line, like a very David Lynch inspired book that I want to write. And I want to revisit a dark fantasy series I wrote when I was a teenager that got lost in the family computer. It's probably for the best because that original story sucked because I was like 15 when I wrote it. So probably best it never saw the light of day, but but I still remember, like I still had all or kept, because when I outline and character plan, I do so in a notebook. So I still have those original notes. So I just revamped it and, made the story not generic, essentially.
Right. Well, I
So
mean, when you're a kid, you don't know any
you're
better.
just copying.
You're just copying stuff you like. You know,
Yeah, now I'm an adult, I have life experience, so it's like, okay, I can make this a non-generic fantasy.
I can make it. Yeah, I mean that's part of, again, we're coming back around your voice, right?
Absolutely.
It's like finding those little distinct things that make it you.
Yeah.
Um, we're out of time.
Oh, dang. All right.
Well, we're not. I mean, I always say this: the podcast police isn't going to arrest us or anything, but
Okay.
it is good to keep things roughly to an hour. I feel like at a certain point, people's eyes they start glazing over. They're like, "What? Come on, Robbie, shut up, shut up, Robbie." Before we go though, where can people find Acetamine? Where can they find you online? Tell people all the links. I'll post all this stuff in the show notes as well.
So Acetamine is on Amazon. If you live in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater area, Florida, it will be at the Book Rescuers, Paperback Exchange, and Mojo Books and Records. I'm trying to expand to other bookstores, but I'll be posting more of that on my social media. So my Instagram is infernal_horror. And my TikTok is Stephanie Infernal, all one word, I think. I had to change it a little bit ago, but I do believe it's Stephanie Infernal, which is also my personal Instagram handle if you want to follow me, where I post even more than my books. You'll see my cats. If you
I was
want,
gonna say you get to see the cats. That's the
yeah,
stars of the show. I
yeah.
I can't get enough of anyone's cats, honestly. So I'm
Oh,
always happy to see
especially
some of the
my
kitty
little
cats.
babies.
Yeah, I had to kick one of my cats out of this room before we started because
Oh
she was
no,
trying.
Luna went and peed in the litter box while we were talking. So
Okay, good,
it's,
excellent, excellent.
I let them come in and out, obviously, because they're small, you couldn't see. But I definitely, or I don't know which cat was in here actually. I thought I saw one of them on my chair because they like to use the chair as a scratching post. Again, I let them because it's their house and I live in it. So
Of course, yes.
yes,
As we all cat owners, they understand. We all understand.
absolutely.
Stephanie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Robbie, for having me on your podcast, and I enjoyed talking to you. I had a lot of fun.